I have had the chance now to speak to, I think, four folks from the cast, and I love talking about this show. I feel like it is one of the more special comedies out there right now.
We feel so fortunate to be on this thing. I mean, it's rare enough that you get to do six. We'll be entering the sixth season of a show, which feels near impossible in this day and age. But to be making something that is connecting with so many people, I mean, just like really filled with gratitude for that. And I say this all the time, but it is so true. We're making this show with like the nicest people on the planet. So to be part of this cast and crew that is just filled with lovely human beings is just makes it extra special. So feel very lucky.
Are you giving some love to our Canadian crews here? Because I've heard wonderful things about your team you're working with for sure.
Our Canadian crew in Montreal is extraordinary. From the DP to the first ADs to our camera department, our focus pullers, truly everybody on that stage that helps us make this show is amazing. And we're 90 something episodes into this show that we've made. And these people we spend more time with while we're in season than our families, so they have truly become like family too, and they're incredible. It's funny, there's a new CBS show called Einstein that's going to be filming in Montreal in the next couple months. And a couple of the cast members from that new show have reached out to us to be like, hey, any tips about Montreal? And the first thing we're all saying is like, you guys are in the best hands. You have the best crew in the business because most of our crew is going to be working on that new show. And yeah, we just feel so fortunate to have the team that we have up there. It really makes making the show a pleasure.
I also love the set because I think it takes something special to pull off such an elaborate, cool set. And obviously there's great locations too and everything else every so often, but the set is phenomenal.
It's incredible, and it's probably the thing that people comment on the most when they come to visit set, if they get the chance, like our friends and family, because it looks great on TV, but when you're there in person, you see all of these details that you don't even get a chance to see in on TV. And our production designer Zoe Sakaropoulos is truly amazing. I think the fact that she hasn't been nominated for an Emmy is criminal because the work she's done on this show and the work that she does under pressure too. I mean, sitcom life can be tricky. Scripts can get late toward the end of a season, and she pulls off phenomenal feats with her team to make the show look spectacular, even with very little time to pull it off. Again, it's like an extension of our amazing team up there that just does an incredible job. But she's one of the best in the business.
That's cool. Well, playing Pete, you've had quite a while to inhabit him so far. What would you say playing him is like? And is there much of you in Pete, or is he just completely kind of figuring out a new person?
Yeah, I mean, when I auditioned for this role and I got the sides initially about this, scout troop leader in the 1980s who's got an arrow in his neck, the because of the timing of it, I thought the 1980s dad, right? Which like I grew up in the 1980s with a dad that is not unlike Pete. My dad, Rick Moriarty, is just like he's super good natured. He's very funny. He's I think he would admittedly say he's a bit of a nerd. But he's just like a lovely human being. And so when I read the sides at first and read the pilot, I was like, "Oh, there's a lot of my dad in this." And that's just such a nice way to be able to grasp onto something and enter into an audition feeling a little more comfortable. Where you're like, "Hey, I think I know who this guy is. He's kind of like my dad mixed with Ned Flanders." And so it was really nice to be able to use him as inspiration for the character. And I do all the time. I mean, like my dad is so quick with a dad joke. And that's one of Pete's favorite things to do is spit out a dad joke even if the situation doesn't necessarily call for it. So yeah, that's he's been my dad has been a huge inspiration for the character.
That's very, very cool because you don't often get to do something like that. I mean, that's so cool.
Totally. It's great.
The other thing I have been thinking about is kind of the fact, we kind of get, I almost want to say alter egos, but it's not quite alter egos, but we kind of get different facets of similar characters in this show that I love so much that it plays out over seasons, over it just certain character moments and everything else that, you know, Trevor really is a great kind of, I don't want to say foil, but you know, there's something there between Pete and Trevor being from similar era and the kind of vibes that they give off. Do you guys think about that much?
Yeah, we have this great moment in the pilot of Ghosts where he and I are sort of teaming up to try to push the vase that goes down the stairs that causes Samantha to trip and fall down the stairs. And we celebrate when we finally get the vase to go down the stairs. Like the two of us are hugging each other and jumping up and down. So Asher Grodman, who plays that character, he and I talked a lot in the lead up to the pilot and during the pilot of like, what is the relationship between these two guys? Because they are so different, right? Like his womanizing ways Pete would never be a part of, and like, Pete often rolls his eyes at the comments he's making, and they see the world through two very different lenses. But that's the kind of thing that, like, an ensemble comedy like this, that's what makes this very fun. And this specific show, us being from different time periods and hugely different backgrounds, it's what I think makes this particular sitcom really fun, is because we have different points of view. You see them clash all the time. And it's really fun to play that with all the great people we have in this cast.
What I love that the last episode I just saw, Pete gets to be a counselor for a little bit there. Like
Yeah.
everyone kind of takes on different roles for different episodes.
Yeah.
What's can you tell us anything that's to come for the rest of the season with him?
Yeah, that couples therapy episode was really fun because like he went into like he's saying that a travel agent is a great person to play therapist because he often has to do that when couples come in trying to figure out where they want to go on a trip. And there's that show Couples Therapy on Showtime that's like a documentary essentially, and it's that was really fun to just be like, oh, I'm going to tap into, I forget the woman who plays the therapist on that show, but I'm like, I'm just going to tap into that energy here. And again, like you said earlier, it's a show like this that has had a long life and has been able, like we get put in positions where we get to show different facets of these characters. That was a prime example of like, oh, great, this is a totally different energy to play. I think the thing I can tease about what the audience hasn't seen yet for this season is that Pete is going to encounter a super dire situation that is definitely going to show a different side of him. Um, there's a lot of fun in the lead up to the finale and the finale itself this season, and I'm really really excited for our fans to see it and hear their responses.
That's very cool. I also love that there's been traditions now that the Halloween episode, the Christmas episode, the certain callbacks each season.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see the storytelling that's been brought into this because I feel like we've had a lot of North American shows that don't do that at all.
Totally. I mean, I think this show is in a unique position. We're so grateful to the guys at the BBC who created this show to begin with. They've been huge champions of ours since day one, and I think they were so excited to bring this concept to the States. But man, the concept is so good. It's just a perfect sitcom concept. So I got to give, Matthew Bainton and Jim Halleck and the rest of that crew like amazing shout out because they did such a great job setting the table for us, and it's been really fun to play in this world that they helped create.
Have you, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but have you watched any or much of the original?
So Jim Halleck plays like a direct, I'm essentially playing his character, right? He's got an arrow through his neck. He plays Pat in the BBC version. And when I got the script for this pilot, I started watching it to just get a sense for tone and what the setup was like. And almost right away, I was like, I have to turn this off because it's so funny. It's so specifically BBC, but also Jim Halleck is so deeply funny. That man is so funny. I sort of fell in love with him a little later than I'm sure a lot of people did in Sex Education, where he plays the music teacher in Sex Education. He's so funny in it. But as soon as I started watching it and watching the first couple scenes he's in, I'm like, I have to turn this off because the last thing I want to do is be doing an impression of him
Mm.
or feeling like I have to live up to what he's doing. Pretty early on, I was like, I have to make this my own. If this is going to be successful, I've got to do it my own way. So I've honestly watched very, very little of the BBC version, maybe an episode and a half in total. And I'm really looking forward to when our show ends to just like devouring it. But it's really hard when you're in it to not feel like you're comparing yourself to how this other person is doing a very similar, if not the same character. So yeah, I've really avoided it because I don't want it to get in my head and make me feel self-conscious about my own performance.
I can only imagine, especially when, they're very different things and you wouldn't necessarily want to step into parody or anything else either.
Totally, totally.
I am very curious on the side of this story as you're the traveling ghost. The ghost gets to go kind of to some degree wherever he wants. What do you think Pete's favorite vacation would be versus what your favorite vacation would be?
Well, it's funny. I think in this last episode that just aired, as he's counseling Thorfinn and Flower, he says something about like, some people want to go to Barbados, some people want to go to the Alps, but everyone should just go to Orlando. So like I feel like Pete, I'm sure it would not surprise me at all to learn that Pete is a Disney adult. That feels very apropos. I that would be the last place I want to go. I have got a 7 and a 4-year-old at home, and my wife has been to Disney a couple times. She's by no means a Disney adult, but she's like, I think we're gonna have to do this eventually, probably. And I'm like resisting at all costs because I feel like myself, I know my son who's 7 gets like super overstimulated in environments like that. And I'm like, I feel like this is gonna be a total disaster for us. So I think my ideal vacation we're actually gonna take next week. I'm going to Mexico next week and we're just literally gonna park it at a resort. I love the ocean. I like warm water. I like pools. I like access to pina coladas. So that's what I'm looking forward to is like literally just like not leaving the property of a resort and sitting in warm weather, especially after, we just wrapped in Montreal. It is so cold up there in January and February, so I'm itching for some warmer weather. We're finally getting it on the East Coast here, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to Mexico and just kind of relaxing for a few days.
Well, the last odd thing I have to ask you is how does your arrow even work? Because it sits there so perfectly. I assume it's comfortable because you've got to wear it for so long, but
Yeah.
how does it even sit on you?
We took a long time figuring out how to make it comfortable before shooting the pilot and even before shooting season 1 too. Once we got picked up, we had to make sure that not only is it going to look good, but it's at a slight angle because a little girl shot me from down low, so it kind of goes up slightly. So that angle has to be maintained. There's a woman named Julie Normandin on set who is literally my in charge of my arrow. So at last looks before we roll any take, she's coming over and like, making sure the angle's right, making sure it's not sitting too far back. Um, and it did take a while to get used to. Essentially, how it works is there's like a very light C-shaped metal bracket that goes around the back of my neck, and that's tucked inside a scarf, and it's got 2 little bolts that come out of it, and the ends of the arrow just screw onto those bolts. But it's funny, like season 1, it was about a half an inch longer on each end. And man, we got into like some dangerous situations a couple times because I wasn't quite used to it being an extension of my body. I clipped Roman's eyelid with it in
Oh
season 1
no.
at one point. I went into like whisper something to his character and I got him in the eyelid. And also the tip of it in season 1, or maybe it was just the pilot, was an actual arrow tip, like a sharp arrow tip. So we've since replaced that. It's a styrofoam tip. It looks metal, but it's styrofoam. So if it does get anybody in the eye, it's not going to do too much damage. And we shortened it by about half an inch on either side for season 2 because it was just like because it was a little bit wider than my shoulders, it was just a danger on set. But now I walk through doorways sideways. Like I'm very used to it being there. Even when I'm not on set, I find myself doing that, and I'm like, oh right, I don't have an arrow in my neck right now. I'm fine. But yeah, it took some getting used to for sure.
That's amazing because who else would have this kind of problem filming a show that your character has this
Truly.
thing
Well,
sticking up your
especially
neck?
especially because it's every day. Like we are tied into these looks. We are never out of those outfits on set. That's the weirdest thing about it. You know, like when you're on a show, you're used to constant fittings where you're trying on new outfits and, you know, you're used to working with the wardrobe department all the time. We almost never see them because it's like, well, there's your outfit forever, you know? And again, season 6, you know, we're going to hit 100 episodes next season. And it's like, it's crazy that the amount of time we've spent in these costumes. It's crazy.
That's so cool, though, at the same time. I'm sure it's not as fun as being on a show where you're constantly getting to change. Does that make like flashbacks more fun when you get to not be in the outfit?
Flashbacks are the best. You know why? And it's not even, I mean, it's great. We love having new clothes on, but for me, I'm immediately asking for props to hold because we can't touch anything.
Right.
You know, and that's such a weird place to be as an actor. As an actor, you move around in the space, you're interacting with the physical world too, but not on our show. So if we have a flashback, I'm like there was an 80s flashback where I had a fight with my wife, I think in season 2 or 3, and I was immediately like, give me a coffee mug, give me a newspaper. Like I want to be holding everything. I had grabbed a donut hole at one point. I'm just like, give me all of it because it's weird. You yearn for props when you're not allowed to ever touch anything.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time. I really feel like every time I've talked to one of you folks from the cast, I feel like I could talk forever because there's so much about the show that is so unique.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. And we really appreciate your support. It's so nice to chat with people who enjoy it. And yeah, very grateful for the time. Thank you.